It starts off with this, with what you just suggested here is a theory, right? The
Right.
idea of theory. It's just a theory is the thing here,
Which
right?
many Christians have on Facebook have thrown out at the atheist who wants to say evolution did it. Oh, it's just a theory.
Yeah, that's
Evolution is
right.
just a theory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if indeed, so that's what he says here. He says, what makes a scientific theory? A lot of confusion, he says, could be avoided if it were dealt with up front. A good example is what you just said, the idea that someone objects to evolution by pointing out that it's only a theory, right?
Well, gravity is just a theory too.
Right. The objection seems to be that we need not believe it because it's just a theory. In other words, if it's just a theory, then it's less credible. It may not be supported by good evidence, and so we need to hold it tentatively, right?
Again, I think this is a downfall of at least the Western education system, because they drill into your head theory, hypothesis, experimentation with observation, and then conclusion. And that's the way it's always been. And you get higher up in the educational sphere, and you realize that hypothesis is can't be diverted away from theory, because what it's not just an educated guess. It's more than that, because you're just educating guessing. You can come up with anything.
That's right.
But you need to establish a good, coherent, logical theory that has different elements that we'll see later on too.
So lack of certainty is not what makes evolution a theory, he says. Evolution, of course, is a theory, and it's clearly, he says, it falls short of certainty, but that itself is no condemnation. All theories suffer from the affliction of lack of certainty to a certain degree, right? And so rather, the main feature of a scientific theory, and now he gets into our definitions here, right? So he says the main feature of a scientific theory, what makes it a theory, is that it is inferred rather than observed. So it's inferred rather than observed. No one has ever seen a theory by definition.
Right. So think back a couple chapters ago when we talked about the billiard balls. No one actually sees what causes the striking. No one sees what that transfer of energy is. There's a cause and an effect, and we don't see the in between to it.
Right.
So the why is inferred. The what happened is observed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So good. So so then he wants to help us to understand this. He says the observation theory distinction falls right along the sense perception reason divide, right? So you have observation and you come up with a theory, and he says it's real similar to the sense perception and reason, right? That those same type of divides.
Hume's fork that we saw
Right.
two episodes ago,
Right.
where those are the only means by which a naturalist can come about with knowledge. Is it's either observed with our senses, and that's it,
Right.
or it's it's come about through logical means or definitional or mathematic.
Right. Right. Yeah. Good. So so he gives us an example here to help us to see. He says, imagine that you're outside in the rain, right? You get to his office. So you directly observe that it's raining, right? It's raining, you see it, you're being rained upon, that sort of thing, right? And then you get to, and so that's a direct observation. And so there's no necessarily, I mean, there's some assumptions built in there, like, I'm not in a matrix.
Right.
But we're
simplifying.
That's right.
That's
right.
Example.
But we directly observe that it's raining. That's what he says here, right? So you directly observe that it's raining, and this observation naturally enough causes you to form the belief that it's raining. And then you get to his office, and you're soaking wet, right? Now he says his office doesn't have any windows. Right now, he says he doesn't. It's not a cubicle, but it just doesn't have any windows, right? And so he says. So what can he make about the idea? What can he infer from the observation that you are soaking wet in his office.
Right. Well, you walked through the grass and the sprinklers came on.
Yeah, right. So that's could be an inference from what you're doing. But he says, you come into my office soaking wet, and though my office has no windows, I too form the belief that it's raining. Notice he says my belief is formed very differently from yours. You directly observed that it's raining. He infers from the observation that you're soaking wet that it's raining, right? So one is a direct observation, the other is an inference, an inferred kind of belief.
Right. That's why it would be hard to prove, quote unquote, evolution, because you're seeing a species. Let's assume, for the sake of argument, that evolution is true. You're seeing species come up with new information within its DNA structure. Hopefully, you can observe that to a point in time which a new kind is made out of that new information. And you don't ever really see that because of the long expanses of time that it takes for the speciation to come up with a new genus or kind or whatever label that you want to put on it. So you don't actually see evolution in action. You might see microevolution, which is different than macroevolution, a change in kind rather than a change in species, or adaptation is what we would pretty much call it in everywhere else. So the observation is, here's a new animal, here's a new organism. It takes a long time, and you could never observe evolution, capital E, evolution, in action.
Right, yeah.
You have to infer that.
Good.